I better make this quick because I've been completely obsessed with Bridgerton on Netflix and I have 2 episodes left. Yeah, that's where I've been. Hi everybody, my name's Stephanie and welcome back to my channel all about my gastric bypass surgery and my entire journey. And I am so sorry that I'm having another double update video for you today. But I think I have a good reason. I think I have a good reason. I don't think it's a good reason, but at least I have a reason. So today's video is actually going to be my weeks 9 and 10 update. I had the time get away from me for reasons that I'll explain later. And all of a sudden it was Tuesday again and I realized that I hadn't done week 9 and now here I am looking at week 10. So here's an update over the last couple of weeks for you guys. If you're into the stats, if you're a stats kind of person, I'm going to throw them up right here like usual. My highest recorded weight was 383.3 and I started my entire pre-op journey and this whole process at 374 pounds. My surgery weight was 344 pounds. And 2 weeks ago, I weighed in at 312.8 pounds. So last week's weight was 307.8 pounds, which was a 5-pound loss for that week. And a complete shocker to me. And then today's weigh-in was 307.6 pounds, which is a 0.2 pound loss, which is also a little bit of a shocker. First and foremost, I think it is something to acknowledge that I was kind of waiting for this to happen. I mean, at some point, it is bound to happen where I just don't really lose much weight at all. I'm hesitating to call it a stall. I really don't believe in calling something a stall that's only happened 1 week, and in all honesty, only a couple of weeks also. That being said, it's not even technically a full stall. I mean, I did technically lose weight, so... I see thrown around online all the time that I've been in a stall for the last 6 days or for the last week or for the last 4 days. I haven't lost any weight. And I just refuse to acknowledge a stall as something that has only been happening for a short amount of time like that. So I lost less weight this week, but coming off of 2 weeks in a row where I lost 5 pounds a week, I'm not surprised at all to see my body like, whoa, wait, what's happening again? What's going on here? It might take a week or two for me to kind of get back on track and my body to realize that we're fine. Everything's fine. It is so important during this process, so important to not be obsessed over the numbers. Your weight, my weight, is going to come off. It's not something that I'm truly worried about. I need to focus on eating healthy. I need to focus on getting my macros in, eating the right amounts of protein and the things that my body needs to heal and stay on top of everything while I drop weight. But the weight itself, I'm not worried about. It's coming off and it will continue to come off. So if you get obsessed over the number on the scale, it'll really ruin the journey and ruin the entire process instead of just kind of enjoying what's happening and focusing on the things that really matter, not just a number. I think it's important to acknowledge that I am still human and I am still a person going through this process. So when I see something like 0.2 pounds lost, I do have a moment where I am discouraged. It's not like I'm immune from that. It's taking the reins in those moments and focusing on the things that matter and reminding yourself that this is just 1 week out of many weeks to come, that it is really going to be insignificant in the grand scheme of things. That's where I try to focus my energy. It's not that I never get discouraged and it's not that I never wonder is this going to work for me? Because I'm human. Of course, I have those thoughts and I wonder those things. But I think it's really important to work on your mindset during this time. I have said before, and I will continue to reiterate on this channel, that I think the mental health portion of this whole process, losing massive amounts of weight and going through bariatric surgery, is the most important and the most difficult part of the process. So focusing your mindset and making sure that you are taking control of those thoughts and pushing yourself to see the right perspective and see things in a new light is really important. Along the same lines of mental health is kind of the topic I wanted to talk about today, which is the possibility of transfer addiction. One, I think it's really important to talk about because it's one of those things that I see mentioned here and there, but really isn't talked about enough, I don't think. And two, I'm wondering if I'm kind of going through a little of that myself. So transfer addiction, or sometimes known as cross addiction, in the context of bariatric surgery, is when you take a compulsion to eat and you replace that with a compulsion to do other sorts of activities or other compulsive behavior. In the context of bariatric surgery, we physically get to the point where we can't really eat to cope anymore. Now, if you're really determined to do it, I'm sure that you can, to an extent, still emotionally eat, but it is such a shock to the system to be able to eat so little. And it is something that we're focusing so much on our macros and eating healthy that suddenly you aren't able to emotionally eat or cope with food like you may have in the past. Now, this isn't saying that everybody who gets weight loss surgery has a compulsive eating issue, and this isn't saying that you may have an eating disorder if you're going through this. This is just really kind of relevant to the people who may have this issue of compulsive eating, which led them to the point of wanting to get surgery. Like me, throughout my life, I've struggled with just compulsive eating and emotional eating in general, but also with binge eating. And that was one of the things that was my final straw and led me to go to bariatric surgery to get a tool to help me deal with that. The reason it is called a tool is because it's just that. The compulsive eating and the emotional eating is not fixed with this surgery. The surgery doesn't touch my brain. It just makes it so I physically can't eat that much, but also because I have the bypass, it does actually affect, what sugar does to me and things like that. So it affects me physically and my physical ability to binge eat or cope with food, but it does not take away that compulsion, and it does not take away the reason that I ended up at 383 pounds. Weight loss surgery, dieting, those things will treat the symptom of compulsive behavior or compulsive eating, but it does not touch the cause of overeating. And that is why working on your mental health during this process, especially if this is something that you struggle with and led you to the point you're at now, is so important. I mean, honestly, it's just one factor in a whole bunch of different reasons why mental health is the most important part of this journey. So going back to transfer addiction, because I get sidetracked pretty easily, some studies have shown that this can occur in up to 30% of bariatric surgery patients. So it's not an uncommon thing at all. And ultimately, what it means is you're taking your ability to cope and the emotional connection and joy that you got from eating, and you are switching it over to something else. The biggest thing that I see in the literature online about this is in regards to alcohol. There are a lot of warnings for bariatric patients to really watch your alcohol consumption after surgery. partially because it can affect you totally different, especially if you have something like bypass, which reroutes your intestines in the way that you absorb and the way that you digest. Alcohol is going to hit you totally different than before your surgery. So it's important to be careful and figure out what your limits and tolerances are after surgery, because they could be entirely different than before. But the biggest reason that I have seen these warnings about alcohol in regards to bariatric patients is the transfer addiction potential. And there are plenty of stories out there of people who traded their compulsion for eating for a compulsion to drink and end up fighting some pretty difficult battles in trying to get a hold of that. Now, I mentioned that I might be going through some sort of little bits of transfer addiction myself, and thankfully it's nothing really compulsive and really worrying, such as alcohol or drugs or anything else. But what I have noticed in the last couple of weeks, and one of the reasons I've had a hard time staying consistent with getting my videos out right now, is that I'm noticing this tendency that I'm having to hyperfixate on something and just want to spend all of my time and effort doing that. I've been really paying attention to this because it's something that I knew from the beginning could be a problem, and I didn't ever want to find myself suddenly in the middle of a different addiction, not having any clue how I got there. So I think that's one reason that I've had these stints that are kind of short-lived, but they seem to be going on for several days or a week at a time until I can kind of snap myself out of it. But then it kind of looks like I move on to something else and get hyper fixated on that. So for example, a few weeks ago, I did notice that I started shopping online a little bit more than usual. And it was something along the lines of just being okay. If I wanted something bad enough, just being okay with it and just buying it, because you only live once, right? And I made quite a few purchases that I normally wouldn't make, and I wouldn't call them frivolous or, crazy overspending. And I at least did make sure that it was something I really wanted before I just, randomly hit the purchase button. But it was something that I was getting a little loose at, and I was finding myself making several orders throughout a several day period that I just wouldn't have done before. And I did spend several $100s on various things. Some of them were things that we've needed for a while, and I definitely don't need a lot of excuses to purchase. And some of them were bird feeders that take pictures of birds, because who doesn't want a picture of a bird that comes and visits your bird feeder? I'm still trying to justify that one in my brain, but I think as soon as it comes and I start getting close-up pictures of birds, I'm going to be pretty happy with that purchase. After I told myself that that was something that I really probably wanted to watch and not be so loose with my spending, I noticed that I moved on to video games. One of the things that my boyfriend and I do together is game together, and I noticed that it came on a little gradually, and then all of a sudden I wanted to spend all of my time playing this game with him. And I would spend pretty much all of my free time doing that. In fact, I found myself working from home so that I could pop in occasionally throughout the day and, do a few things here and there, because I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And I realized after about a week of this that I am absolutely being obsessive over this, and it wasn't healthy. It was keeping me from doing literally anything else. And that was actually probably one of the biggest reasons that I didn't get my video out last week, was that I was just hyper fixated on this game, and I just wanted to spend all of my time doing that. And I wasn't really thinking about anything else. And I'm not sure if the last one is really related all that much, because when you get into a show and you start binging it on Netflix, that's something we can all relate with. But I am keeping an eye on the fact that I have this really strong desire after work to gravitate towards the living room and just start binge watching shows for the rest of the night. And sometimes I'll go through this. Every once in a while I'll get into something and I'll watch a little bit more TV at night before going to bed. And then I'll go long periods of time where I just don't ever watch anything. But in this case, I'm trying to pull myself out of that a little bit because, again, it's another example of me not really doing the other things that I not only need to do in my life, but would like to do, such as updating this channel and doing research and playing with my cats and preparing for getting a puppy this month, which is something I haven't even talked about. And there's just a lot of other things that I could be spending my time on that I find myself blowing off, and I don't want to do that. It's really important to keep an eye on things like this and other mental health concerns that might come up along the way. I know from my research that I'm pretty early on still, and from some of the things that I've seen that people can experience emotionally through this process, I very well might have a rough road ahead of me that I just haven't experienced yet. So I'm trying to focus the time now on my mental health and make sure that I am mentally prepared for this journey and putting in just as much work on the mental side of things as I am on the physical side, and making sure that I'm eating healthy, moving a lot, hitting my macros, weighing my food, all of the things that go towards the physical side of this surgery are important, but it's so important to nurture our mental health too, because this can be a long and difficult road, and I need to be mentally prepared and as strong as I can be for that. Thanks so much for watching this video. As of filming right now, I have 99 subscribers, and I think you aren't one of them. So why don't you go ahead and hit the subscribe button and be my 100th subscriber, because that's pretty cool. Apparently there's 100 people, well, almost 100 people who want to come back and listen to what I have to say. That's weird. Imagine standing in a room of 100 people who are like, yeah, I want to know what you have to say about this. So if you haven't subscribed already and you find yourself coming back, or you find what I have to say useful, go ahead and support me, support the channel, and just hit the subscribe button. You know, ring a little bell, hit a little like button, shoot me a little comment, you know, all those little things that people ask you to do. But ultimately, more than anything, I just want to thank you for watching this video and supporting my journey and all the wonderful comments that I keep getting from people. And I keep getting new people all the time asking questions and wanting to know more information. And I'm really enjoying the community so far. So thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And I promise it won't be a 2-week update. I promise. Thanks so much, you guys. Bye.